Hello and welcome to CGS with me, Paul Harris. Today we're talking about gold exploration in Colombia, and I have great pleasure to be joined by Ari Sussman, Executive Chair of Collective Mining. Good afternoon, Ari, and Happy New Year.
Hi, Paul. Happy New Year to you as well. It's been a while.
It has. Lots to catch up on. Great start to the year from Collective. You put out some drill results this morning at the Apollo target at the Guayabales project in Caldas. And the dimensions of this thing continue to grow. You reported your deepest hole yet. Tell us about that, please.
Look, we had a meeting as a management team early last fall of 2023, and we discussed two paths forward for the company. One was, do we put a pin, in Apollo and go to rush to a resource estimate, drill the infill in 2024 and try and come out with an estimate at the end of the year? Or do we continue to keep our exploration hats on our heads and grow our potential resources in the ground? And we decided on the latter, obviously. So from that point forward, we said, well, if we're going to go down that road, let's really go for it. There's no point in infilling if we're going to say we're going to grow. So we did that, and we started with directional drilling to step out to the west, southwest, as well as the north, which I'll come to in a minute, at Apollo. And, this was the second step out westerly drilled hole. We've extended the system both to the southwest and at depth. Now it's over 1 kilometer. And a reminder to your listeners, this starts right at surface. So we're starting at 0 meters, and we've now traced it down to 1,070 meters below surface, and open. And we reported a big bulk intercept again. The nice thing about this deposit, is very clear. I mean, there's a remarkable high grade near surface, right? So when you think about future mining scenarios and ultimate, pits transitioning to underground mines, which we envision happening here, this is the dream setup, because the pit's going to make a lot of money very quickly, pay for a lot, and allow us to go underground when everything's bought and paid for, and make margin, in that regard. So we're going to continue to expand, we're with the drill, at Apollo, and as well, we're drilling other targets, which we can talk about next.
Okay, so the current dimensions of Apollo following the results put out this morning are the strike length 520 meters by 395 meters wide by, as you said, 1,070 meters depth. You also talked about you've got a minimum 40,000 meters of drilling planned for this year. How much of that will be in Apollo?
So because we're keeping our exploration hats on, we're not setting our meters per target. Okay, so what I will tell you is this: we had a break at Christmas, our first break in a long time. We decided to take one, so the drills all stopped. We let the drillers go home for the holiday. The first drill at Apollo is resumed. It's been drilling already for about a week. The second, third, and fourth rigs will resume drilling over the coming 2 to 4 weeks. Okay, and their resumption are going to be based on assay results that we received and what we see. So presently we have a rig on standby at Apollo. We have one rig that was drilling at Trap, prior to the Christmas break. Once we get those results, we'll likely resume drilling at Trap, and the fourth rig will likely drill at Olympus at the deeps, which we believe we made a significant visual discovery anyways from a hole drilled through Apollo into Olympus. So that's kind of the plan, as we speak. So 4 rigs will be turning. We will complete 40,000 or more meters. I suspect we'll grow to 6 rigs, sometime between June and August for the second half of the year. But we're going to start this way right now, which is what we had operating last year, and push hard. We've got some pretty amazing stuff, Paul, potentially amazing stuff in the hopper. One is, this Olympus deep hole, and that was not planned. Okay, let's start with that. We plotted a hole from south of Apollo. Okay, and the hole's aim was to cut across from the south to the north through the Apollo system, which it did. As you know from visiting site, that Apollo, the host rock at Apollo, is a brecciated porphyry system, and that hole went through Apollo where we expected it to. We cut about 500-ish meters of mineralization. It then stayed in breccia far longer than we imagined. So it stayed in breccia for more than 1,000 meters before we lost the hole in a fault. But what we saw is after we cut mineralization for about 500 meters, we went through something like a 200-meter dead zone. We're still in the breccia, but there just wasn't enough sulfide to get excited, about from what you see visually. But then something interesting happened. The hole transitioned into another sulfide-rich area, brecciated area. And what's exciting about it is A, it lies more at the Olympus area north of Apollo, but B, it's clearly another porphyry system. It is not the same style of porphyry as Apollo. How do we know this? Well, a couple of obvious things. Number one, there's no chalcopyrite in it, so it's going to be gold rich and silver rich if it's silver, but not. So it's going to be a precious metal intrusion, not a copper gold intrusion. Two, we see magnetite in the core. We have no magnetite at Apollo, or almost none. And all of a sudden, we have an abundance of magnetite. So that's a different system. And three, not so obvious to the eye looking at core, but when you study the core under the microscope, which our technical team does, there's a lot more moly or molybdenite that we see in this core. It's not economic moly, but it's like 3 to 4 times the amount of moly that we see typically under the scope. So we know we've discovered a new intrusion, okay, which is gold and silver if it's going to run. And the nice thing is that hole went about 1,050 meters, but we lost the hole in a fault. So we didn't stop the hole because we ended the system. We were stuck in the system when we had to unfortunately stop the hole. And I should add that that new potential discovery cut more than 200 meters of mineralization before we couldn't recover the core in the fault. And those assay results are expected at the end of this month, around the end of this month. So we're really excited for that. I don't have a crystal ball on what the assay lab will show, but based on what we see at Apollo and looking at it, I'm hoping that the visuals tell us there's enough grade that that's going to make it. It's going to be quite deep at Olympus, but we don't know how shallow it comes. Let's start with that. We don't know where it goes laterally, but we do know at surface at Olympus, we had early drilling, which had discovery holes, including 302 meters at 1.11 grams per ton gold equivalent from surface. That's not in breccia. So the breccia is not right at surface, at least in the location we drilled, but it's able to produce potentially economic grades at surface. And now we're talking well over 1,000 meters below surface with this deeps intercept. So it's pretty exciting. Maybe it can be analogous to Marmotto, because Marmotto has veins in the upper part without porphyry host, and the Marmotto deeps is porphyry hosted. So maybe we have something, brewing that could end up being similar. Time will tell.
You've put out some very interesting photographs on your X feed, or the company's X feed, about some of the intercepts you're getting. And as you say, when was it? The end of the month, towards the end of the month, getting the assays back from that hole in Olympus, as well as the hole in Trap.
So Trap's another one to talk about. I'm going to post, think about it. I'm going to post an X feed on the core of that as well. Okay, so the caveat I want to put up front to your listeners with Trap is as follows. The core is bleached white with cerussite, which is a high-level porphyry alteration. So because of that, it's harder to really know what you're seeing in the core on the visuals, okay? So because it masks it with a white overprint, right? So your sulfides, which are black, get stained white, okay? But with that said, we drilled 3 holes at Trap, holes 2, 3, and 4. Let's start with the bad. Hole 4, which went due east from the eastern pad, looks like a dud. Okay, I don't think we hit anything. Hole 2, which went from the northern pad to the south, visually cut potentially more than 600 meters of mineralization starting just below surface. Okay, so hopefully we'll have something significant to announce there. And hole 3, which went from that eastern pad to the west, looks like it has 2 intersections. One's well north of 100 meters, and another one maybe around 75 meters, in length, with a dike of some sort in the middle separating them. So this has the earmarks of becoming something big, with the caution that we don't know what we're seeing in terms of sulfide levels because it's masked by that white bleach. So we need to wait for the lab. Those results are expected around the middle of this month. Okay, so once we get the Trap results and we interpret them, we're going to start drilling again at Trap. Once we get the Olympus deep results and interpret them, we're going to start drilling at Olympus again. And so we're gonna have a very exciting year, and with a lot of luck, we'll have 2 new discoveries to announce, by the end of this month into early February.
With all this going on, Ari, where do you want to get Guayabales, which is let's say the global name for the project? Where do you want to get that to this year?
Our goal is to have the market, and analysts and technical people believing that there's a chance at 10 plus million ounces here. Obviously, we're not going to get the project to the point where we're drilling off 10 million ounces for 2025, but with enough smoke that one can imagine a 10 plus million ounce system. I strongly believe, and I'm betting very heavily, and that's the case here. There's no question Apollo itself is already a multi-million ounce system from the drilling. It needs a lot of infilling to go to resource estimates, right? To a mineral resource estimate. But I don't think it's the only one, and we need to show the market that that's one of a string of carrots, on this project that all stem from our motto, which is almost 9 million ounces next door. And it's, this kind of 5 by 5 kilometer area that's just absolutely impregnated with different styles of mineralization. It's pretty remarkable, and it's just not something that anyone sees very often in geology. So we need to get the market to wake up to this potential, and that is our goal this year. We're going to wake everyone up with the drill.
Why 10 million ounces is obviously a very nice round number and a very big round number. Is there any specific reason why that's the number you're working towards? Or is it the case that that's the number where, the major companies start knocking on your door and really taking an interest?
Well, I think that's the number that gets the large seniors, over the line. It's hard to sell a giant large company on a 4 million ounce deposit. Okay, that's for the intermediate. There's no question we already have that, by the way, at Apollo. It's an intermediate level project if you just stop today and there was nothing else to find. Our goal is to take it to that major scale. And 10 million ounces is an arbitrary number. I hope it's a lot more than that, and I think it can be. But look at our former company, Continental Gold. We drilled off over 11 million ounces and sold to Zijin, one of the largest mining companies in the world. And that really needs to be our goal, here. I hope the project will deliver that, and I'm confident it will.
With the grades you've been getting and the long intercepts, how far away do you think you are from a number like that, back of the envelope calculation?
So a back of the envelope calculation, I think that if we drill hard this year and we get some luck, we're going to need some luck. I think people can start to dream with dimensions of that kind of number by the end of the year once all the results are released and compiled.
So pretty important.
We're clearly halfway there or more at Apollo already from the current dimensions, and so we have to fill it in with a second discovery, and so that's what we're going to do. And look, we're not stopping at Olympus and Trap. I mean, we plan on drilling 2 new targets this year for sure. One called Target X and one called Tower. Of the 2, Target X looks like an Apollo dead ringer. I mean, it's got the same surface geochemical signature. So we see both porphyry mineralization, a copper and moly signature overprinted by, these late stage high grade veins, same ones at Marmato, same ones at Apollo, and they're there. So it's a dead ringer from a surface expression. Does that mean we're going to hit? No, but we got to drill these things. And it's a breccia, by the way. It's another breccia body. So we got to drill these things. We're on a pretty special system. Let's go hard. And let's not forget, we have other Plutus. I mean, everyone, including me, was excited about Plutus. We made the rational decision after announcing a discovery there that it's so big and vast that we better do airborne geophysics to try and help define where to drill better, or else we're going to blow our brains out with gambling, and holes. So we did cut 136 meters at 1.3 grams, in gold and silver at Plutus. But let's do that airborne in the spring. That's going to be lined up for the next dry season. The subsequent dry season in Colombia. We'll fly that, and then from those results, I'm hoping we'll have a dead ringer target to go and poke at Plutus as well. So, in summary, we're going to be drilling Apollo, we're going to be drilling Olympus, we're going to be drilling Trap, we're going to be drilling X, Tower, and Plutus all in this calendar year. I don't know another company that's going to drill this many targets this aggressively, so I think it's a pretty compelling investment for shareholders. One last thing I'll add is the success rate here is unparalleled. In mining, it's about a 1 in 1,000 chance of making a discovery that becomes a mine, and about 1 in 300-400 chance of making a discovery that's at least deemed credible. We've made multiple already from first pass holes. I mean, it's amazing stuff. So let us go hard. I think there's a lot more juice to pull out of the system, and we're going to do it this year.
Exploration is all about adding value to the company, share price, market capitalization through the drill bit. Another aspect that adds value is what the commodity prices are doing. Gold has started the year, quite strongly above $2,000 per ounce. It's settled in there. Doesn't seem to be percolating through to equity valuations yet. What's the missing piece in your opinion, Ari?
I think just hold on for a very short while longer. I'm quite optimistic for the year. And if there's a statistic looking back, I think it's the last 15 years or so, the years where gold has been very bullish to start the year, the first 2 weeks has started weak. Okay. And so we're seeing that kind of a correction, a small correction right now. I mean, gold, I don't know, it's trading at $2,025, $2,030 per ounce, down from, 2070, 2080. So that's a minor correction. The equities, are consolidating, but I think there's fireworks coming here. It's hard to imagine a scenario where the growth of the world picks up so drastically, so suddenly, that the let's raise interest rate equation is back on the table in the near term. I just don't see it. Couple that with the fact that a lot of the debt is rolling over this year, so it's hard to imagine, say, the U.S. government servicing, rollover coupons at north of 5-6%. So I think all the stars are aligning for lower rates for a number of reasons, and gold has always been and will be a strong benefactor, of that.
Well, let's hope so. Collective Mining trades on the TSX under CNL and on the OTCQX under CLLMF. Ari Sussman, Executive Chair, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Paul. Always a pleasure.
And that's all from me, Paul Harris. Stay tuned for more from CGS.